Yesterday, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, admitted that thousands had been killed in the recent unrest in his country. He put the blame for those deaths on the shoulders of President Trump for encouraging the protesters. In response to Khamenei's speech, President Trump said in an interview, "It is time to look for new leadership in Iran." Will this sustained pressure crack the regime? Joining me to discuss is Narges Bajoli. She is a professor at Johns Hopkins University. Pleasure to have you on. Tell me, when you look at this situation, it does feel like a broader set of protests than before, deeper, and the Iranian regime is very weak, battered by Israeli strikes, American strikes, battered by an economy that is doing terribly. The currency has plunged. So, does it mean that they are genuinely vulnerable?
Well, the reality is that Iranians are extremely angry at the economic situation and the political situation. They are backed against a wall where they know that the economic situation is not going to get better unless there is significant concessions that are made in foreign policy, because much of the economic situation, it is due to, yes, economic mismanagement, but also severe UN and US sanctions on the country. These uprisings that have taken place, they have been squashed in a very, very violent manner. And so far, things seem to be calm, but the underlying issues have not been resolved. And until those are, there will be, more uprisings and more protests to come into the future. That's sort of the nature of Iran's society. Now, if we're trying to think about, is this going to lead to some kind of regime collapse or regime change? What we have to see is that so far, all indications point to the fact that the Revolutionary Guard and Iran's various paramilitary and security forces have actually cracked down with a vengeance. There does not seem to be any kind of pulling away from the establishment or any kind of, coming away from following the orders of those in charge in Iran. And then more importantly, there is not a unified opposition with a clear sort of organizing across the country. And so what you see is a lot of outpouring of anger, but not necessarily any kind of movement that is organized to be able to take over and topple this regime at this moment.
So what you're describing is kind of a regime that remains united, that, as you said, not only are the Revolutionary Guard able to issue orders which are followed, the guards, the army, everybody does what they're told, but there are no fissures or cracks within the elite as far as we can tell, though there have been some, there have been some indications of differences in policy. What about, the kind of the bazaar, as people used to say, when the Shah was toppled, there was this, this theory that what happened was the religious elements, the clerics, joined hands with the bazaar, the traders of Iran, and that was a potent combination. Where is the Iranian bazaar right now?
Yes, so because in this protest we saw it came out of many bazaris closing their doors and calling and joining for strikes and protests, has been a lot of hope that this is sort of a repeat of 1979. But the fact of the matter is that the Islamic Republic has systematically weakened the bazaar over the past 47 years, and in particular over the past nearly decade of maximum pressure sanctions on Iran. The bazaar has actually in many ways had to rely upon the Revolutionary Guard and the political elite in the country in order to bust through sanctions. So it is not the independent economic powerhouse that it was in 1979, and that is very significant here. The other component of this is that what led to the 1979 revolution was years of organizing on the ground and movement building that brought in the different institutions of power in Iran. The institutions of power in modern Iranian history are the bazaar, as you mentioned, the clergy, civil society, the military, and in the past, the monarchy. During 1979, you had three of these different traditional power centers in Iran aligned to topple the monarchy. Currently, not only is the bazaar systematically weakened, especially under these kinds of sanctions, and made to rely upon the Revolutionary Guard and political elite to bust through sanctions, but also the clergy, it is decentralized in Iran, and it does not have that kind of unifying leader like Ayatollah Khomeini, who led the 1979 revolution today. So we don't sort of see these institutions moving in the similar kinds of ways that would seriously challenge those who are in power in the current situation.
Nargis, very important and interesting remarks. Thank you so much. All pleasure to have you on. Next.